Hello and welcome to Mr.Game Review Show. Don't forget to subscribe the channel, hit the like button and put a comment below the video. Thank you so much. Earnest Evans is an action-adventure platformer developed by Valve Team and published by Renovation Products. Released in 1992 for the Sega CD, the game is a part of the Earnest Evans trilogy, which includes Earnest Evans Genesis, Mega Drive, El Vinto, and Anet Futatabi. The game is set in the 1930s and follows the protagonist, Earnest Evans, a treasure hunter on a quest to retrieve powerful ancient artifacts. The storyline is heavily inspired by Indiana Jones, featuring exotic locations, traps, and mysterious relics. The Sega CD version stands out because of its anime-style cutscenes that help narrate the story, adding a cinematic feel that was rare for the time. Earnest Evans offers a mix of platforming and combat where players must navigate through various stages filled with enemies, obstacles, and traps. The game's mechanics are somewhat unique, as Earnest's body is animated in a very fluid, almost ragdoll-like manner. This animation style was intended to create a dynamic and realistic movement system, but it often results in awkward controls and clunky gameplay. The physics can be unpredictable, making precise platforming difficult and leading to a frustrating experience at times. Combat in the game involves using a whip, similar to the weapon used by Indiana Jones. However, the hit detection can be inconsistent, and the controls are not as responsive as they should be, which further detracts from the overall experience. The Sega CD version improves upon the graphics seen in the Genesis version, with more detailed backgrounds and character sprites. The cutscenes are the highlight, featuring detailed anime-style artwork that adds depth to the story and characters. The soundtrack is one of the stronger points of the game. Composed by Motoi Sakuraba, the music fits well with the adventurous theme and adds atmosphere to the various stages. However, the sound effects are fairly basic and don't stand out much. Earnest Evans received mixed reviews upon its release. While some appreciated the unique animation style and the ambitious attempt to create a cinematic platformer, many were critical of the game's controls and overall execution. The awkward physics and unrefined gameplay mechanics often overshadow the game's positive aspects, making it more of a curiosity than a classic. In hindsight, Earnest Evans is often remembered as a game with potential that fell short due to its technical flaws. It's an interesting title for collectors or fans of early 90s platformers, but it might not hold up well for those expecting a polished gameplay experience. Earnest Evans on Sega CD is an ambitious but flawed platformer. While it has its moments, particularly in the storytelling and soundtrack, the frustrating controls and unpredictable physics make it a challenging game to enjoy. If you're a fan of the era or enjoy obscure titles, it might be worth a playthrough, but it's not a must-play in the Sega CD library. Earnest Evans does feature boss fights. These encounters are scattered throughout the game and typically occur at the end of certain levels. The boss fights generally follow the pattern of classic platformers from the era, where you need to learn the boss's attack patterns and find the right moments to strike. However, like much of the game, the boss fights are affected by the same issues with controls and physics. The unpredictable movement of Earnest and the somewhat clunky hit detection can make these fights more challenging, but not always in a way that feels fair or enjoyable. The bosses themselves are often large, intimidating creatures or mechanical contraptions that fit the adventurous, treasure-hunting theme of the game. In terms of design, the bosses are visually interesting, and their presence adds variety to the gameplay. Yet, due to the control issues, these battles might feel more frustrating than rewarding. Despite this, they do contribute to the overall adventure, giving players a sense of progression and accomplishment when they finally manage to defeat them. The composer for Earnest Evans was Motoi Sakuraba. He is a well-known Japanese composer, particularly famous for his work on video game soundtracks. Sakuraba has composed music for many popular game series, including Tales, Star Ocean, and Dark Souls. His compositions for Ernest Evans contribute to the game's adventurous atmosphere, blending energetic and dramatic themes that align with the action-packed gameplay. Whether Ernest Evans is worth playing largely depends on what you're looking for in a game. Reasons to play: nostalgia and curiosity. If you're a fan of early 90s platformers or enjoy exploring lesser-known titles from the Sega CD library, Ernest Evans could be an interesting experience. Its unique animation style, anime cutscenes, and Motoi Sakuraba's soundtrack are aspects that might appeal to retro gaming enthusiasts. Anime-style storytelling: the Sega CD version includes anime-style cutscenes that were relatively advanced for their time. These cinematic sequences help flesh out the story and provide context for the adventure, which might appeal to fans of narrative-driven games. Collector's interest: if you're a collector or someone interested in the history of video games, especially in the evolution of cinematic platformers, Ernest Evans might be worth adding to your collection. Reasons to skip: frustrating controls. The game is notorious for its awkward controls and unpredictable physics. Ernest's ragdoll-like movement, while innovative, often leads to frustration, especially during platforming sections and boss fights. Inconsistent gameplay experience: due to the clunky hit detection and uneven gameplay mechanics, Ernest Evans can be more frustrating than fun. If you prioritize tight, responsive controls and polished gameplay, you might find this title lacking. Better alternatives: there are many other platformers from the same era that offer a more refined and enjoyable experience. If you're looking for a game with similar themes but better execution, you might want to consider titles like Castlevania, Prince of Persia, or even Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. Ernest Evans is a game with some unique and ambitious ideas, but it's also flawed in execution. If you're curious about its historical context or are drawn to its specific aesthetic, it could be worth a playthrough. However, if you're looking for a smooth and polished gaming experience, there are better options available.
アネット、ヨーロッパじゃ紳士は女性に親切にするもんなんだよ。ご心配なく、マドモアゼ。
でも怪我をなさってるわ。もう。
いや、お構いな。